Hospitals are places we cling to for hope. Behind those sterile white walls, we trust strangers in uniforms with the lives of those we love most. Parents especially know this: when their child is sick, every ounce of fear rests in the hands of a nurse or doctor. In the late 1970s, at a pediatric ward in Texas, one nurse stood out. Her name was Genene Jones. She wasn't glamorous, nor particularly striking, but to parents, she radiated reassurance. She moved quickly through the halls, speaking with a kindness that felt comforting, as though she cared for every child as if they were her own. Mothers whispered that they felt safe when Nurse Jones was on duty. But safety is a fragile illusion. Behind her gentle smile, behind the stethoscope hanging neatly at her chest, there lurked something unspeakable. And soon, the whispers about her wouldn't be about kindness, they would be about death. The night shifts were always the hardest. Dim lighting stretched shadows down long hallways, machines beeped rhythmically like the fading heartbeat of the ward itself. One night, alarms erupted in the nursery. A tiny infant's chest stopped rising. Parents were pushed out of the room, clutching each other in terror, as Genene rushed to the rescue. She pressed on the child's fragile chest, injected medicine, called for oxygen, moving with frantic urgency. Then, miraculously, the child gasped for breath. Relief washed over the parents. To them, she was an angel in scrubs, a miracle worker. But this miracle was selective. Too many children under her watch suffered sudden collapses. Some she saved, others she didn't. Yet it always seemed to happen with her nearby. Nurses began to whisper, "Why is it always Genene?" Doctors looked at the death rate charts with unease, an alarming spike shadowed her shifts. Still, no one accused her. How could they? She looked like a savior. But a darker truth was unfolding. Genene wasn't waiting for tragedy, she was creating it. For parents, the horror was unimaginable. One mother remembered the way Genene had reassured her before she left the room. "Don't worry," the nurse said softly, "I'll watch over them like my own." Hours later, her child was gone. It wasn't an isolated story. Investigators started piecing things together: empty drug vials discarded in waste bins, unexplainable injections that didn't match prescriptions, and a chilling pattern: the victims were always infants and toddlers, the most vulnerable of all. The drug of choice was often succinylcholine, a paralytic that silences muscles, including the lungs. In an infant, it leaves them unable to breathe, until death. Why would she do this? The answer was both horrifying and twisted. Genene thrived on chaos. By pushing children into crisis, she could then swoop in, attempt a heroic save, and bask in the glory of being the one who fought to bring them back. But playing God comes with casualties. And dozens of children would never wake again. The staff began calling her something behind her back: a Lamia, a monster from Greek mythology said to devour children in the night. And here she was, wearing the mask of a healer, feeding her hunger for power. The walls finally began to close in. Whispers turned into reports. Suspicious staff members came forward, unable to carry the guilt any longer. Medical records were reviewed, an unnatural cluster of deaths aligned perfectly with her shifts. When investigators confronted her, her coldness was chilling. She denied everything, insisted she was being scapegoated. But testimonies painted another picture: nurses recalling how infants would suddenly crash only after Genene adjusted their 4 lines, how she hovered near the sickest children with unsettling anticipation, as though waiting for the perfect moment to intervene. In court, parents wept as they described the final moments with their children, trusting a woman who would become their worst nightmare. Survivors testified about the strange puncture wounds and unexplained collapses that haunted their records. The jury saw her for what she truly was: not a healer, not a hero, but a predator cloaked in compassion. She was sentenced for the murder of infants under her care. But even then, many believed the full extent of her crimes far exceeded what could ever be proven. Some estimates claimed her victims could number in the dozens, even hundreds. Genene Jones had earned her title, the real-life Lamia Nurse. Today, her name lingers like a shadow in medical history. A monster who hid in plain sight. A woman who turned trust into a weapon. But her story is not just about horror, it is about the voices who refuse to stay silent. Nurses who risked their careers to speak out. Parents who demanded answers, even through their grief. Investigators who fought against a system that wanted to bury the truth to protect the hospital's reputation. Because silence allows monsters to thrive. And courage, even in the face of despair, is what finally brought her down. Genene Jones is living proof that monsters don't always crawl out of the dark. Sometimes, they wear a kind smile. Sometimes, they whisper, "Don't worry, I'll watch over them like my own." But her downfall is also proof of something else. No matter how terrifying the evil, the truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface. So tonight, as you tuck your children in, remember, trust is sacred. And it must be earned. Because the Lamia is real. And once, she walked among us.